Deep in the hidden archives of heaven lies a name erased from scripture, Namtael. Once heaven's supreme chronicle, he fell with Lucifer, but unlike any other fallen angel, he came back carrying a scroll sealed with seven divine locks. Namtael returned with a prophecy so dangerous that God himself shined it away. What did Namtael see in the abyss that terrified even Lucifer? Why would heaven allow a corrupted soul back into paradise? And what truth lies within the scroll that will only be opened at the end of the world? Join us as we uncover the untold history of the mysterious angel, his fall, his return, and the catastrophic secret he guides. This is not the story you learn in Sunday school. This is the hidden war in heaven that's still unfolding today. Welcome to a realm beyond the ordinary. On this channel, we'll journey into the hidden secrets of the realms, both heaven and earth, unveiling ancient truth, spiritual mysteries, and the unseen forces that are shaping our world. Here, we explore the mysteries of angels, divine encounter, supernatural dimension, and the spiritual laws that govern life. Whether you are seeking deeper understanding, prophetic insight, or spiritual growth, this is your gateway into revelations that transform, enlighten, and empower. Join us as we uncover what many fear to discuss, what some try to hide, and what only the bold are willing to explore. Welcome to a community hungry for truth, illumination, and the deeper things of the Spirit. Please do share and subscribe for more.
Before creation's first light pierced the void, before galaxies learned to dance in the darkness, Namtael occupied a position of terrifying privilege in heaven's innermost chambers. He wasn't Michael, commanding heaven's armies with a sword that could split reality. He wasn't Gabriel, bearing messages that could topple kingdoms with a whisper. Namtael wielded something far more dangerous than any weapon: absolute knowledge. As heaven's supreme chronicler, he didn't just record what happened, he documented what would happen, what might happen, and what must never be allowed to happen. His celestial stylus captured the birth pangs of universes, the secret conversations between the Trinity, and the first shadows of doubt that crept across Lucifer's perfect features. Every thought before it formed, every decision before it crystallized, every consequence before it rippled through eternity. All of it flowed through Namtael's consciousness and onto his eternal scrolls. But here's what made Namtael different from every other celestial being. He felt everything he recorded. While other angels maintained divine detachment, Namtael experienced the full emotional weight of each cosmic event. When he chronicled the creation of humanity, tears of wonder stained his parchment. When he recorded the first murder, his stylus trembled with grief. This emotional connection, this dangerous empathy, would become both his greatest strength and his fatal flaw. Can you imagine being the only being in existence who truly understood both sides of every cosmic conflict? That was Namtael's burden. When Lucifer began his subtle campaign of questions and doubts, he didn't approach the mighty warriors or the powerful seraphim first. He came to the one angel who had recorded every injustice, every seeming contradiction, every moment when mercy and justice appeared to clash. He came to Namtael. "You've seen it all," Lucifer whispered during those long walks through heaven's crystal corridors. "The suffering that serves no purpose, the love that's commanded rather than freely given, the worship that's demanded rather than inspired. Tell me, faithful recorder, does perfection require such pain?" Namtael didn't answer immediately. He couldn't, because in his perfect memory, he held examples of both divine wisdom and what appeared to be divine cruelty, and for the first time in his existence, he couldn't reconcile them. The day heaven split apart, Namtael made the choice that doomed him. He chose understanding over blind loyalty, questions over unthinking obedience. As the morning star led 1/3 of heaven's host in their catastrophic rebellion, Namtael found himself swept along not by hatred of God, but by love of truth, even when that truth led to darkness. His fall was unlike any other. While Lucifer descended in magnificent fury, trailing fire and curses, while Azazel plummeted with screams of rage, while Belial tumbled in manic laughter, Namtael fell in absolute silence. His scrolls pressed against his chest. He watched his former home shrink to a distant point of light, watched his brother angels transform into beings of shadow and flame, watched the very fabric of reality tear apart to create new realms of existence built on pain and separation. The abyss, not hell, not the lake of fire that awaited later, but the space between spaces where the fallen first landed, defied every law of physics and metaphysics that Namtael had ever recorded. Time flowed in impossible directions. Memory became unreliable. Truth warped into lies so convincing that even angels began to doubt their own existence. For a being whose entire purpose revolved around perfect recollection and absolute accuracy, this realm was torture beyond imagination. Namtael wandered this twisted dimension, still clutching his scrolls, still trying to record what he witnessed. But his divine ink ran like blood across pages that wouldn't hold meaning. Words he wrote changed themselves when he wasn't looking. Sentences he recorded perfectly transformed into blasphemies and lies. The very act of documentation, which had once connected him to the divine order, now seemed to mock his fallen state. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. In any other tale of rebellion and punishment, this would be where our protagonist either surrenders to darkness or wages hopeless war against heaven. But Namtael did neither. When Lucifer, now transformed into Satan, began establishing his hierarchy of the damned, he naturally assumed that heaven's former supreme chronicler would eagerly serve as his record keeper, documenting the new order of evil. "Join me willingly," Satan commanded, his voice now carrying the weight of absolute authority over the fallen, "and your position in my kingdom will be second only to my own." But Namtael, looking up from his ruined scrolls with eyes that had seen too much, gave an answer that stunned even the Prince of Darkness. "I serve neither heaven nor hell now. I serve only truth, wherever it leads." This wasn't defiance in the traditional sense. This wasn't rebellion against rebellion. This was something unprecedented, a fallen angel who refused to be claimed by either side of the cosmic war. Satan raged, threatened, and finally dismissed him as irrelevant. The other fallen angels viewed him with suspicion and contempt. And heaven? Heaven had already written him off as lost forever. So Namtael wandered the abyss alone, neither demon nor angel, carrying the weight of perfect memory in a place designed to destroy meaning itself. Days passed, or perhaps centuries. Time had no consistent flow in that realm. And then, in the deepest pit of that twisted dimension, he discovered something that should not have existed. Hidden behind veils of shadow and silence, where even the boldest demons feared to venture, was a doorway that violated every rule of cosmic architecture. Not a physical portal, but a tier in existence itself. A place where the absolute laws separating heaven, earth, and hell briefly overlapped. And from that impossible threshold came a voice older than creation, neither divine nor demonic, asking the question that would change the trajectory of eternity itself. "Child of two realms," the ancient voice whispered, "why do you still carry those scrolls when their words no longer hold truth?" Namtael, exhausted from his futile attempts to record meaning in a meaningless place, answered without thinking, "Because if I stop trying to remember what really happened, then nothing was ever real. Not the beauty, not the love, not even the pain. And if none of it was real, then this rebellion, this fall, this suffering, it's all just cosmic noise." The voice seemed to smile, though it had no mouth, no face, no form. "Look deeper," recorder of memories. See what even the Almighty chose not to reveal to his faithful angels. See the war that makes this rebellion look like a child's tantrum. See the betrayal that will make Lucifer's seem like honest disagreement. What Namtael witnessed in that moment would haunt him through eternity. The voice showed him visions not of the past, not of the present war between heaven and hell, but of a future so dark that even omniscience had hidden it from itself. A second rebellion was coming, but this one wouldn't be led by a fallen angel drunk on pride. This betrayal would come from within heaven's most trusted ranks, from angels who had never questioned, never doubted, never fallen, until the moment they would fall further than Lucifer ever dreamed. With hands that shook like autumn leaves, Namtael began to write. Every name, every date, every horrifying detail of how heaven would nearly destroy itself, not through external assault, but through internal corruption. He wrote of angels who would smile at God's face while sharpening knives for his back. He documented betrayals that would make Judas look like a faithful friend. He recorded the exact moment when heaven's greatest defenders would become its most dangerous enemies. The scroll that emerged from this vision wasn't parchment anymore. It was something alive, pulsing with dangerous knowledge, wrapped in warnings written in languages that had never been spoken. When Namtael finished writing, he stared at what he had created and realized he was holding something more dangerous than any weapon ever forged. This wasn't just prophecy, it was a loaded gun pointed at the heart of creation itself. For eons, no fallen angel had ever attempted to return to heaven. The gates were sealed with divine fire, the bridges burned with holy wrath, the paths guarded by seraphim whose purpose was to destroy any contaminated soul that dared approach. But Namtael, clutching his impossible scroll, began the journey that everyone knew was suicide. He didn't sneak. He didn't disguise himself. He didn't try to slip through cracks or shadows. He walked straight up to heaven's main gates in full view of the guardians, his head bowed, his scroll wrapped in chains he had forged from his own humility. The seraphim on duty, beings of pure fire whose wings could blind mortals and whose voices could shatter mountains, recognized him immediately. Namtael, the chronicler, they said, their words burning the air itself. You who fell with the morning star, you who chose questions over faith. Why do you dare return to the realm you betrayed? Their flaming swords rose, ready to unmake him before he could contaminate heaven with his presence. But Namtael didn't flee, didn't fight, didn't even look up. He knelt in the cosmic dust and spoke words that froze the seraphim in their tracks. I carry something that belongs neither in hell nor in my hands, he said quietly. I return not seeking forgiveness, but seeking the only being capable of bearing this burden. That's when Michael himself materialized. The archangel of war still bearing scars from the recent cosmic battle, his armor blazing with righteous fury, his voice carrying the authority of divine justice itself. Namtael, you who chose exile over obedience, you who fell rather than trust, speak quickly before I separate your essence from existence itself. What possible purpose could bring you before these gates? Michael's sword was already half drawn, its edge crackling with the power to erase beings from reality itself. Namtael's answer stopped the mighty archangel mid-motion. Because I have seen what is coming, and the knowledge is too terrible for any created being to bear alone. I have returned not for mercy, but for the sake of all creation, including the heaven I once called home. What followed challenged every precedent in cosmic law. Heaven operates by rules older than galaxies, procedures established before time began its first tick. When fallen angels approach the divine throne, they are typically unmade by the very presence of absolute holiness before they can utter a single word. But Namtael was not unmade. Instead, he was brought before the full court of heaven, the 24 elders, the 4 living creatures, the countless myriads of perfect angels who had never known doubt or rebellion. As he unrolled his scroll in that place of impossible light, even beings who had witnessed the creation of universes turned their faces away. The knowledge contained in those pages was too dangerous, too dark, too final for any consciousness except the divine to fully absorb. Namtael didn't read the scroll aloud. Its contents were too devastating for spoken words. Instead, he simply said, "This was revealed to me in the deepest darkness, where truth becomes visible precisely because it cannot hide behind light. I could not allow such knowledge to remain in hell's domain, but I cannot bear its weight alone. It belongs to the one who sees all endings and knows which ones must be prevented." For 7 complete days, heaven fell silent. No songs of praise, no declarations of glory, no movement except the slow turning of cosmic wheels. Even the cherubim stopped their eternal circling of the throne. The 24 elders ceased their worship. Time itself seemed to hold its breath as the Almighty contemplated something that had never been contemplated before, allowing a contaminated soul to remain in paradise, not out of forgiveness, but out of necessity. The decision that emerged shattered every precedent in divine law. Namtael would be permitted to remain in heaven, but not as he once was. He could never rejoin the choirs whose songs sustained creation. He could never again approach the inner courts where policy was made and prophecies were born. He would exist in the liminal spaces, the borderlands between light and shadow, watching, waiting, recording still. But now as a guardian of knowledge too dangerous to share. Most importantly, his scroll would be sealed with 7 locks of divine power, each one requiring a different key, each key hidden in a different dimension of existence. The scroll itself would be placed in a chamber beyond the reach of any being except God himself, guarded by an angel whose name appears in no book, whose face no creature has ever seen, whose very existence is classified beyond the highest levels of heavenly security. To this day, that scroll remains sealed, its contents known only to the one who created all things. Mystics throughout history have speculated about what those pages contain. Some whisper that it names the specific angel who will lead heaven's final betrayal. Others claim it reveals the exact words God spoke to Lucifer before his fall. Words so devastating that they made the morning star smile as he plummeted into darkness. Still others believe it contains a detailed timeline of creation's end, including the precise moment when every soul must choose their eternal allegiance. But here's what should keep you awake at night. The scroll wasn't sealed to protect us from its knowledge. It was sealed to protect reality itself from what would happen if that knowledge were revealed prematurely. If the identity of heaven's future betrayer were known too early, it could trigger the very betrayal it predicts, creating a paradox that could unravel the fabric of existence itself. So Namtael waits in his exile that isn't quite exile, carrying the burden of knowledge that could save or damn all creation. Every time he encounters a fellow angel, the question burns in his mind like acid. Is it you? Are you the one who will smile at God's face while driving the knife home? Every time he observes the increasing chaos on earth, he wonders, is this the beginning? Are these the signs that herald the final betrayal? Can you even imagine such a weight? To know that treachery is coming but be forbidden to prevent it. To watch for signs of corruption in beings you've known since before time began. To carry the names of the damned but be unable to warn the innocent. That's Namtael's eternal punishment. Not fire, not torture, not exile, but knowledge without the power to act on it. And here's the most chilling aspect of his story. His unique qualification for this terrible responsibility came precisely from his fall. Only an angel who had touched darkness and somehow retained his essential nature could be trusted to recognize that same darkness when it arose in others. Only someone who had felt the seductive pull of rebellion could spot its subtle signs in those who still appeared perfectly loyal. Namtael's presence in heaven serves as a living reminder that corruption can arise anywhere, even in paradise itself. He walks the golden streets like a ghost, neither fully accepted nor completely rejected, carrying his terrible knowledge like a wound that never heals. He's become heaven's early warning system, its canary in the cosmic coal mine, its guardian against the betrayal that even God seems unable to prevent. The story refuses to offer easy endings. Namtael isn't a hero redeemed by his sacrifice. He's a necessary witness whose fall prepared him for an even greater service. He didn't return to heaven triumphant. He returned bearing a burden that transformed him into something new, something unprecedented in cosmic history. He exists now in the spaces between categories, between light and darkness, between loyalty and rebellion, between salvation and damnation. His scroll waits in its hidden chamber, sealed until the moment prophesied for its opening. When those 7 seals finally break, and ancient traditions insist they will, it will signal not the end of one age, but the beginning of heaven's most dangerous hour. The final war won't announce itself with trumpets or earthquakes or dramatic signs. It will begin with the quiet sound of parchment unrolling and a voice reading names that will shock even the angels who thought they knew every secret of creation. But here's what connects this ancient cosmic drama to your life right now. We're living in Namtael's vigil period, somewhere between the sealing of the scroll and its eventual opening, between the prophecy and its fulfillment, between the warning and the catastrophe it was meant to prevent. We exist in the tension of not knowing exactly what's coming, but sensing that something vast and terrible approaches. The question becomes, what kind of witnesses are we during this cosmic intermission? Namtael watches from heaven's margins, but what are we watching for down here in the material realm? Are we paying attention to the subtle erosions of truth, the gradual compromises of integrity, the slow corruption of institutions and individuals that historically precede great betrayals? Or are we sleepwalking through the setup for heaven's final drama, unaware that our choices during this waiting period might determine which side we're on when the ultimate conflict erupts? Maybe Namtael's vigil isn't just about heavenly politics. Maybe he's also documenting human behavior during these crucial years. Maybe he records every moment when someone chooses truth over convenience, integrity over advantage, sacrificial love over selfish gain. Maybe our names are appearing in heavenly records not as judgment entries, but as evidence that even in times of great deception and moral confusion, some souls still recognize light and choose it regardless of cost. Consider this. If heaven itself is vulnerable to betrayal from within, how much more should we be vigilant about the state of our own hearts? If angels who have never known anything but perfection can somehow be corrupted, what does that say about our need for constant spiritual vigilance? Namtael's story suggests that the greatest dangers don't always announce themselves with obvious evil. Sometimes they come dressed as questions that seem reasonable, doubts that appear justified, compromises that look like wisdom. The scroll remains sealed, its terrible secrets locked away until the appointed time. But the story of Namtael continues to unfold around us every day. His vigil reminds us that the most important battles are often fought not with dramatic gestures, but with quiet choices made when no one is watching. We might not have wings or divine powers or perfect knowledge, but we have something equally precious: the ability to choose light even when darkness offers easier paths. Every time we choose forgiveness over revenge, every time we speak truth despite social pressure, every time we show mercy to those who don't deserve it, we're participating in the cosmic drama that Namtael witnesses from his lonely post. We're proving that even in a universe where angels can fall and heaven itself can be threatened, the fundamental goodness of creation still pulses through willing hearts. This is the ongoing story of Namtael, the angel who fell and returned, carrying secrets that could reshape everything we think we know about the war between good and evil. His vigil continues in the silence between what we know and what we're waiting to discover. The scroll he guards remains sealed, its 7 locks intact, its contents known only to God. But its very existence reminds us that the story isn't over. The war isn't won, and the choices we make today echo through eternity in ways we can barely comprehend. If this journey into the hidden corners of cosmic history has stirred something in your spirit, don't let it end here. Hit that like button to support our exploration of these buried truths, and subscribe to Bible Breakdown Hub because we're just getting started. There are so many more secrets hidden in the shadows of Scripture, so many more mysteries waiting to be unveiled. Until our next dive into the unknown, keep your eyes open and your heart pure. You never know who might be watching, recording, and hoping that when the final scroll is opened, your name will be found written in the light.